This is the start of side 2, and now the fun begins. So we go over to Beverley, who will start the proceedings.
And now a little story of Rudolph and Company. When little children lie awake on Christmas Eve, too excited to sleep and with their ears cocked for the sound of you-know-whose sleigh landing on the roof, they may have hospitably put out some food and drink for the visitors. A glass of milk or a mug of cocoa, perhaps, for Father Christmas himself, and some choice carrots for his team of reindeer. But that raises an interesting question. Exactly how many reindeer does Father Christmas have? It would be terrible if there weren't enough carrots to go round. According to A Visit from St. Nicholas, there are 8 reindeer, each of which has a name. This is the order in which they are listed in the poem. So forth. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner and Blitzen. The names of the first 6 are easy and haven't changed since the poem was first published anonymously in 1823. But Donner and Blitzen are a different matter. Their names are the German for thunder and lightning. Originally, Donner was Dunder and Blitzen was Blixem, the Dutch words for thunder and lightning. A later version of the poem, published in 1837, changed the reindeers' names to Donder and Blixen. They changed again at some later point to their current forms of Donner and Blitzen. But what about Rudolph? Isn't he the chief reindeer, thanks to his red nose that glows so brightly and enables Father Christmas to see his way in the dark? In contrast with Dasher, Dancer and Co., Rudolph is a relatively recent addition to the team. He was created by Robert L. May, who was an advertising copywriter, and first appeared in a colouring book called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in America in 1939. Rudolph went on to become the subject of a song, further books, and a film. What his fellow reindeer think of Rudolph's worldwide status is not known because, unlike many other celebs, they never give interviews. Isn't that nice?
I now have a story, and it's called The Story of the Card. I'll just find it. Here it is. The Story of the Carol. Got my own handwriting. There were all sorts of tales about King Wenceslas. Thank you. You can all help me with that. There were all sorts of tales about Wenceslas's pious Christian nature. One of these is the belief that he would walk barefoot at night with only his page for company to distribute alms to the poor. And this story was commemorated in the carol that bears his name that you should all know. The carol's lyrics were written by John Mason Neale, an Englishman, in 1853. They were set to the tune of Tempest Adist Flordidium, one of the spring carols in the Finnish song collection Paie Canationis, which was first published in 1582. The words of the carol itself are a gift to children of every age. They have inspired corny jokes about good King Wenceslas liking his pizzas deep and crisp and even, and schoolchildren stifle giggles when they sing, "Heat was in the very sod which the saint had printed." There is also almost irresistible temptation to sing "Gathering Winter Fuel" instead of a more melodious rendition, no matter how often choirs are told not to do this.
And I have a week to Christmas, starting with Sunday. Sunday with 6 whole days to go. How we'll endure it, I don't know. Monday, the goodies are in the making. Spice smells of pudding and mince pies are baking. Tuesday, Dad's home late, and quiet as a mouse, he smuggles packages into the house. Wednesday's the day for decorating the tree. Will the lights work again? We'll have to see. Thursday's for last-minute shopping and hurry. We've never seen Mum in quite such a flurry. Friday is Christmas Eve when we lie awake, trying to sleep before the daybreak. and that special quiet on Christmas morn when far away in Bethlehem Christ was born.
My story's about a stocking. The old long stockings. Every year their thick brown weave was stuffed into stillness, stiffness, stretched like a cartoon ostrich neck with knobbly shapes, the parcels, to be wreathed out over one huge one that's called an immense. And all of us are also intense, all involving mix of hope and dread, for who thinks in the past of future in the moment of unwrapping the present? So every year, starting with the largest lump stuck in the stocking's throat, we'd work our way down, tunneling, to find if fate matched our desires, so difficult at 7 a.m, to praise the unwanted or unexpected, to mask disappointment at the not quite right. But life itself is a gift, even if it's not just what we wanted, and from gifts we learn to accept, to understand at last that the real gift was the stocking itself, year after year, and the hands that filled it, and the certainty that after everything or anything, however hollow our fantasies proved, we would always find, tucked in the toe, a tangerine, an apple, and a sixpence.
Finding page 129. Here I have it now. And this is a poem. On the 13th day of Christmas, my true love phoned me up. Well, I suppose I should be grateful. You've obviously gone to a lot of trouble and expense, or maybe off your head. Yes, I did like the birds. The small ones, anyway, were fun, if rather messy, but now the hens have roosted on my bed, and the rest are nested on the wardrobe. It's hard to sleep with all that cooing, let alone the cackling of the geese, whose eggs are everywhere, but mostly in a broken, smelly heap on the sofa. No, why should I mind? I can't get any peace anywhere. The lounge is full of drummers, thumping tom-toms, and sprawling lords crashed out from manic leaping. The kitchen is crammed with cows and milkmaids and smells of a million stink bombs, and enough sour milk to last a year. The pipers, I'd forgotten them. They were in no trouble, but I paid them and they went. But I can't get rid of these young ladies. They won't stop dancing or turn the music down. And they're always in the bathroom, squealing as they skid across the flooded floor. No, I don't need a plumber round. It's just the swans. Where else can they swim, poor things? I think they're going mad, like me, when I went to wash my hands. One ate the soap, another swallowed the gold rings, and the pear tree died. Too dry. So thanks for nothing. Love, goodbye.
Goodness. And now from Christmas to the history of New Year resolutions, which we all make, and I don't know how many of us keep them. At the turn of each year, the ancient Babylonians would promise their gods that they'd honour their debts and return any objects that they borrowed. The Romans also made morally based resolutions at the start of each year. The idea of making New Year's resolutions particularly appealed to Puritans, who became prevalent in the 16th and 17th centuries with the rise of the Protestant Reformation. Even though the Puritans were effectively given the thumbs down by many people from 1660s onwards, their desire to make resolutions each January never changed.
We may have forgotten many of the traditions our forebears performed religiously every year. But one 18th century custom that originated in Scotland remains when midnight strikes on the 31st of December. Everyone shuffles into a circle, crosses their arms, and grabs the hand of the person next to them and begins singing or mumbling the chorus of Auld Lang Syne. If they can manage the verses as well, they probably haven't had enough to drink. It is often claimed that the words of Auld Lang Syne were written by Robert Burns, one of Scotland's foremost poets, but this is not entirely true. In fact, he heard some of the words when an old man recited them to him, after which Burns copied them down and in 1788 wrote the rest of the poem himself. Burns was an avid collector of old Scots songs and always made it plain that Auld Lang Syne was based on one of these.
And now we're going to pucker up. Even if you aren't interested in any of the other customs associated with New Year's Eve, this one might appeal. No sooner has midnight arrived than the kissing begins. So you have to pucker up. Sometimes everyone kisses everyone else, and sometimes they only kiss their nearest neighbours, in which case some clever strategy might come in handy if you want to make sure you're standing close to those you want to kiss and far away from the ones you would rather avoid.
And now an article about Hogmanay fire ceremonies, which some of you may have heard of, and I seen them quite a long time ago now. As well as Hogmanay being an excuse to be lit up with alcohol, it has also long been a focus for celebratory fire ceremonies. These must surely have a strong connection with the return of the sun's light at the winter solstice. Although many of these traditional ceremonies have now disappeared, a few are still a feature in some parts of Scotland. In Stonehaven near Aberdeen, for instance, there is an annual fireballs ceremony, in which people wrap flammable material such as paper in balls made from chicken wire, set light to them at midnight, and parade up and down the streets while swinging the balls around their heads. Any balls that are still burning when the ceremony ends are simply flung into the harbour. Another Hogmanay custom, called burning the clavey, is still celebrated at Burrhead on the Moray Firth, but it takes place on the 11th of January, which is actually Old New Year's Day, using the Julian calendar. The clavey in question is half a barrel, which is fixed to a pole, filled with tar, ignited with a brand, but never with matches, and paraded around the town in a procession led by the clavey king. It is then carried to the top of nearby Dury Hill and placed on a ruined Roman altar. When the burning clavey collapses, everyone grabs a piece and takes it home so they can light their own fires with it. The charcoal remains of these pieces of the clavey are traditionally stuffed up the chimney to keep witches and evil spirits at bay during the coming year.
And mine's called First Snow in the Street. I did not sleep last night. The falling snow was beautiful and white. I dressed, sneaked down the stairs, and opened wide the door. I had not seen such snow before. Our grubby little street had gone. The world was brand new, and everywhere there was pureness in the air. I felt such peace, watching every flake. My heart felt more and more awake. I thought I'd learned all there was to know about the trillion million different kinds of swirling, frosty, falling flakes of snow. But that was not so. I did not know how vividly it lit the world with such a peaceful glow. Upstairs my parents slept, yet I could not drag myself away from the sight to call them down and have them share the mute miracle that was everywhere. The snow seemed to fall for me alone. How beautiful the grubby little street had grown.
Now my reading is headlined Colin, and It starts in Wales and its adjoining English counties. New Year's Day has long been marked by a tradition in which adults go from house to house, wishing the occupants a happy new year and collecting something in return for their trouble. This something was once known as a Calennig, C-A-L-E-N-N-I-G, Calennig, or New Year's gift, and was usually food or money. As time went by, the adults hovered in the background or stayed at home, and it was children who did the rounds. But now they carried a Calennig themselves, and it conveyed a blessing on everyone who saw it. It was traditionally an apple skewered with 3 sticks to make a tripod, studded with nuts or cloves, and decorated with a sprig of thyme, rosemary, or some other evergreen herb. The children would sing a song that spelled out their requirements, so no household was left in any doubt about what they were expecting. The song was popular in Cardiganshire and Pembrokeshire. Mi godais heddiw mas ti, an cwd am pastwn gyda mi, a dyma meges ar eich traws, sef llanwn cwd a bara a house. Now that translates as, I left my house today with my bag and my stick, and here is a message to you. Fill my bag with bread and cheese. The Calennig tradition still continues in some parts of Wales, and nearby English counties join in, but today the children are most likely to receive some shiny new pennies.
And now for A Martian Christmas, another little Christmas poem. After a long year and a half in space, we reached Mars, December 25th, 2033. Christmas dinner was all planned. Freeze-dried turkey and roast potatoes, with Christmas pud squeezed from a tube to follow. Presents were a problem. We hadn't been able to stop off for shopping on the way. And we went outside for the first time and got depressed. Sand, nothing but sand. Maybe the 3 wise men will come plodding round that sand dune on their camels. Someone said, but we didn't laugh. We were too busy thinking about Christmas, but that was 50 million miles away. Then we saw the star, hanging like a lantern in the east. It's Earth, someone said. We just looked and looked. It must have been the brightness of it that made our eyes water.
And now a story about post and why you should always post early for Christmas. I posted some cards today. You might imagine that the production of the first commercial Christmas cards in 1846 was simply one of those ideas whose time had come. And perhaps it was. Or perhaps it was an outstanding example of marketing know-how that many companies and government monopolies would love to replicate today. Although Britain had enjoyed a national postal system since its inception in 1635, it was in dire need of reform by the early 1800s because it was complicated, expensive, and different rates applied to different areas of the country. It took years and many people to develop the uniform penny post, the standardisation of British postage rates, with the cheapest stamp costing 1 penny. The person most widely associated with this reform is Sir Rowland Hill, but another man who was involved in what was considered to be such a highly important innovation was none other than our old friend Sir Henry Cole. The Treasury awarded him the prize of £100 for his suggestion of how to develop the penny post. Whether or not the combination of cards and postage was a deliberate move on his part, the novel idea of sending Christmas cards was certainly made easier by the development of the penny post, which was finally introduced on January 1840. And as you all know by now, it was a massive success.
Mine says forecasts. There are berries this year on the holly. It wasn't always so. They may be simply a forecast of snow. There's frost on the sill. I've seen it glitter with diamond light. It's slippery too. The traveller must watch his step tonight. There's a moon as big as a melon, and far off, oh how far, flickering on the horizon, a fresh and different star. In the heart of man is a coldness. Through a crack in the stable door, there glimmers a new dominion. Even ice can thaw.
There is nothing unusual about having special decorations that sit on the dining table each Christmas. Most of us have them, and they can be anything from a set of beautiful silver candlesticks to a cotton wool snowman made by the youngest member of the family. They're all part of what makes Christmas special, and all are precious, even if for different reasons. When it comes to the royal family's festival decorations, we have no idea what they like to admire while waiting for the royal sprouts to be dished up. But there is one notable exception. Somewhere among the decorations is a flowering sprig from a hawthorn. It might not look very special, but it has tremendous significance for millions of people around the world. Because of Joseph of Arimathea. The sprig comes from the Glastonbury thorn, a plant in which the story of Jesus and the legend of King Arthur have become intertwined. Legend has it that Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus Christ, and some say his great-uncle, visited Glastonbury after the crucifixion. It is said that Joseph was carrying the book, the Holy Grail, and the cup from which that came, Jesus drank at the Last Supper, and which was used to catch his blood as he died on the cross. At the time of Joseph's visit, the area around Glastonbury consisted of flooded marshland, so that only high ground was visible. This land was the famed Isle of Avalon, so essential to the later legend of King Arthur. Joseph began to climb the hill that we now know as Weirall Hill, but he was tired and needed to rest. He thrust his staff, some said to have once belonged to Jesus itself, into the ground and fell asleep. And when he awoke the following morning, the staff had turned into a flowering thorn bush. And so the legend of the Glastonbury thorn was born. That first thorn tree has long since perished, but it is believed that several of his descendants still grow in Glastonbury, all of them with a provenance that can be turned back to that original thorn. They belong to a particular form of hawthorn, Carnagius monogema biflora, that flowers once in the spring, roughly around Easter, and again at Christmas. The tradition of cutting a sprig from the Glastonbury thorn and sending it to royalty at Christmas began in the 17th century during the reign of James I, when his consort Anne of Denmark was the recipient. The Civil Wars cast a blight on this practice a few decades later, when the Puritans chopped down the original tree, claiming that the beliefs surrounding it were nothing but superstitious nonsense. However, several cuttings from that first precious tree went flourishing unmolested elsewhere in Glastonbury. After the restoration in 1660, the royal tradition connected with the Glastonbury thorn was eventually revived and still continues ever since.
What will go into the Christmas stocking while the clock on the mantelpiece goes tick-tocking? An orange, a penny, some sweets, not too many, a trumpet, a dolly, a sprig of red holly, a book and a top, and a grocery shop, some beads in a box, an ass and an ox, and a lamb, plain and good, all whittled in wood, a white sugar dove, a handful of love, another of fun, and it's very near done. a big silver star. On top, there you are. Come morning, you'll wake to the clocks tick-tocking, and that's what you'll find in the Christmas stocking.
Now I have a poem called Listen. Listen. Far away, the snort of a camel, the swish of boots in the endless sand, the whisper of silk and the clatter of ceremonial swords. Far away. Listen. Not so far, the slam of a castle door, a cry of rage on the midnight air, a jangle of spurs, and the cold thrust of a soldier's command. Not so far. Listen, closer now. The homely bleat of a ewe among the grasses, the answering call of her lamb fresh born, the rattle of stones on a hillside path. Closer now. Listen, closer still, the murmur of women in the dark, the kindly creak of a stable door, the steady breathing of the sleepy beasts. Closer still. Listen, so close you are almost there. The singing of the stars, the soundless flurry of wings, the soft whimper of a child amongst the straw. So close you are almost there.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week, so thank you for listening. So from the team of
Joan, Beverley, Rod,
and myself, Lilian, with Colin on controls, it's goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Cheerio.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again on January the 9th, 2014. So it's now left for us to... We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy 2014 to you all. Good health.
Good health.
Good health.
Good health. Cheerio. You'll hear us next year.
Yes.
You will indeed.
2014.